morning, everyone, and welcome to today's special edition of Bold TV, brought your way by Bold Heart Initiative. My name is Florence Marcus, and I have the honor and privilege to be your host for today's event, for today's broadcast, as we hold conversation that is so personal and dear to me and other women with disabilities in Nigeria. As the world celebrated the International Women's Day 2 weeks ago with the powerful theme of Accelerate Action, we're reminded that true progress requires more than just awareness. It demands urgency, to tackle and bring about tangible changes. As a woman with a disability, I know firsthand the barriers that women like us face every day. And I know that we often, navigate this world that is not built to cater for our needs in mind, with lots of challenges. However, 2019 brought a ray of hope for persons with disabilities in Nigeria with the passage of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, a landmark legislation aimed at ending discrimination and marginalization against persons with disabilities. Yet, this law offers a lot of promises, some of which are still not being implemented. But does the journey end there? No. The journey does not end with the enactment. We must accelerate action. We must take steps to ensure that women with disabilities are truly included. We must take steps to ensure that women with disability get the change that they deserve. So today we'll be discussing and having conversation around this act and how it has impacted the lives of women like me and others around Nigeria. We want to look at the progress that has been made so far, if there is any. We want to bring out the gaps, point out the gaps. We still want to explore how the community, how Nigeria, can put hands together to ensure that women with disability get the benefit that they need, that would derive from this act. So stay tuned and participate in this conversation, even as we continue. I am not alone in the room. I'm in the room with my amiable colleagues and friends. We have other people who are together with us in this room. I will take time to introduce ourselves.
Hello, good morning, everyone out there. My name is Afyong Etim. I'm a medical laboratory scientist. I live and work in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. And I'm a member of Bold Heart Initiative. It's good to be here.
Good morning, online audience. I remain Osaki Teresa George Ritaria. I'm a polio warrior, a freelancer and a farmer. I reside in Port Harcourt on NE. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Freki Andrew Essien. I'm based in Port Harcourt in Rivers State. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury, a public health practitioner, Idiofika Foundation, and a member of Bold Heart Initiative. Awesome to be here. Thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Dr. Yakubu. I reside in Abuja. I'm the National Coordinator Advocacy for Women with Disabilities Initiative. It's a pleasure to be on Bold Heart again. Nice meeting you all.
Good morning, ladies, and good morning, our online audience. My name is Tracy Onabis Agbamu. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I work in the development space as a program officer at the Inclusive Friends Association, IFA, which is an organization for persons with disabilities here in Abuja. It's so nice to be on this call. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our listeners out there, and our viewers, please, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Please like our channel, subscribe, and share to as many people as you know, not just women with disabilities. These conversations are always rich conversations that will impact the life of anyone that listens to them. So please share, like, and subscribe. And beyond that, we would convert your partnership. If you are led, to partner with us, even with your financial resources, we will not say no. Please contribute and make this program sustainable. Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead with our conversation on the Disability Act. Remember, again, the topic for discussion today is the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018. What has changed for women with disabilities? Looking at this, the first question I would like to ask is, that will lead this conversation is, what tangible improvements have women with disabilities experienced regarding the rights enshrined in the Disability Act? If you go through the Disability Act, there are several rights there because it's a right-based instrument, from the non-discrimination to the right to education, right to work. There are lots of rights, priority in queues. There are lots of rights, accessibility that are enshrined in that law. So how has this translated from just being the words of the law to lived experience for women with disabilities? Can we start with you, Tracy? As a lawyer and someone that works in the disability space doing things with women, what do you think has changed?
Thank you very much for that question, ma'am. For me, I would say that the enactment of the Act, has given women with disabilities a tool to amplify their voices with. Seeing as how before the Act, although we had the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities operational after ratification, but still, the larger population were still operating on the charity model, But the Act, coming into existence has given women with disabilities a tool. Saying that it's enforceable, it's a law, it's not a mere policy, it's enforceable. And that has given us a platform to leverage and begin to have our issues put out there before the right stakeholders. Prior to the establishment of the Act, when we talk about issues around education, around governance or political participation, generally with women without disabilities, as it were, there was no place for that infusion of including women with disabilities in the scheme of things. But now that we have that Act in existence, and a lot of awareness has been going on as to the provisions of the Act and all what it promises for the community of persons with disabilities. I see a lot of organization of women with disabilities or organization of persons with disabilities that are women-led on the strength of that Act, building partnerships with other CSOs to further strengthen the voices of women with disabilities and see that we are giving a seat at the table. We are part of whatever agenda they have to bridge the gap of gender equality. And all of this was made possible because of the existence of the Persons with Disabilities, of the Disability Act 2019. So that's one thing I would say that has changed since the Act came. So the women with disabilities have become more empowered, more emboldened to begin to demand for our rights as provided for under the Act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with respect to the Act, I will toe the line that Tracy has started with. One of the things that I think is key with the Act and the impact that it has had with women is knowledge, the knowledge of what the rights are in the first place. Because without knowledge of what these rights are, it will just be in the air. And, when it comes to disability issues, there's that tendency to be emotional, when we are speaking about issues around disability. But the Act has taken us to go beyond emotional and emotiveness and be able to speak with a lot of authority, speaking to a legal document that is binding. Now, has the my gender, exercised the law? That is left to be seen because I've not heard any particular litigation or anything. But I think that the power of the knowledge of the fact that knowing that the law exists, understanding what the rights, are, and being able to voice up, because I've seen a lot of women empowered to be able to speak up just because there's something there, So those are some of the changes that we have seen. The other thing that I would like to say that I've seen since the Act is the involvement of women in that space. It has increased significantly because then again, clearly, when you see a document that even acknowledges that women have rights, in the articles and children, it gives you the power to have the boldness to occupy that space. So I've seen a lot more women with disabilities begin to participate when it comes to their rights, disability development issues, accessibility rights. So those are some of the things that I would say that I have noticed when it comes to the changes or the prospects since the Act was signed in January of 2019. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your contributions. Yes, knowledge is very key when it even comes to the realization of rights, because without knowledge, you would not even, there is nothing else you can even do. So we are grateful for, first of all, having the provisions, knowing what exactly our rights are, and that is the first step. But when it comes to other rights that are enshrined in the law, Afyong, how do you think, what improvement have you seen in the realization of specific rights in the Act?
Okay, so when it comes to the changes that like you said, lived experiences based on the disability, the Prohibition Against Discrimination Act, that what I have seen in terms of structural barriers, that is what I have noticed, that a few places, both private and public, government owned and those owned by private individuals, have taken steps to ensure that they have accessible entrances. I've visited a few places like supermarkets and banks, and they try as much as possible to include accessible entrances so that persons with disabilities can actually access their buildings. And but for the most part, like I mentioned, the healthcare sector where I work, I've noticed that not much has changed. Because, for example, I noticed there's new buildings are put up, and even when you speak, because I know I've spoken out about this a few times, when you speak up about it, that's the willingness to actually comply is not really there. So I think there is a need to more advocacy needs to be done, because let's face it, we are the ones affected. Anyone who is not affected will be less inclined to go out of their way to do anything, especially when it's going to cost them money. So I think there's a need for advocacy to push for the implementation of the provisions within the Act.
Thank you so much. I think the speakers have really spoken well. I will just add my voice to say that Disability Rights Act in Nigeria has paved with a lot of opportunities and have created a lot of voices. Especially now that when we talk about issues around gender-based violence, a lot of organizations, especially organizations of persons with disability, are now they're taking into actions now, pointing out, telling individuals about gender-based violence. Initially, when they talk about gender-based violence, issues around persons with disabilities, especially women with disabilities, are not being mentioned. But because of the Disability Rights Act and Prohibition Act, every individual now are informed. They have the formal information. They know that there's a policy now you can use. And also a whole lot of work is being put on ground to ensure that issue around gender-based violence, access to education, and even access in all ramifications is being addressed. And especially issues around empowerment of women with disability also is being addressed. I think Disability Rights Act is giving us voices and is creating that, gradually creating the enabling environment. Just like what my sister said, Afyong said that we need to do more work. We need to do more work about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think from all this conversation, it has been revealed that we are not where we used to be. We have moved, even though we have not arrived at a destination, because like Afyong said, there are things that are still left that are outstanding, especially with respect to some of the substantive rights. Yes, because of this law, even things like gender-based violence that are not expressly mentioned in the law, but when you look at provisions around non-discrimination, it can be applied and all of that. There has been some little changes in that light. So we are not where we used to be. Osaki, can we hear from you? If you can just add your voice to that before we go to the next conversation.
Thank you very much, Florence, for that question. Okay, I'll add up my voice. I also hear like what you said and what other ladies have said. The significant improvements, it's small. Okay, I'll tell you with an experience. In the newest employment, there's this form that came out that was like this, I think first week of March or thereabouts. There was a form that was created by the federal government, and after I was filling that form, I was shocked and I was happy that I could see a slot that they put, do you have a disability? So I have filled a lot of forms, and most forms within the Nigerian cycles, you will not see it. But I was happy that I could see, do you have a disability in that form? Yes or no? And they could a little bit like, what kind of disability? So meaning that they have like a mind of person with disability is applying for this form, so they will know where to fix the person. So the progress is coming, but it's on a slow pace, like gradually things are trying to improve. And also I had an experience somewhere I went to, it's a health center, and the steps that they had there was too high. Even someone without disability will struggle to climb in. When I go there, I say, Alpha, what happens? There's no other road or any other entrance. They say, no, this is only one. And I said, okay, now you've seen it. How do I enter? And they're like, let them help you. I say, no, ma, you can't really help me. All I just did, add some few steps and it will be easier. And immediately they did that. And it was good for even those with disability and those without disability. So you see that the public is listening and people are trying to see how they can adjust, though it's still at a slow rate. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So having said that, yes, we have made some progress, which means that there are still some issues, there are still some challenges. What challenges remain, and especially for women with disabilities in Nigeria, despite the enactment of the Act? And what further measures do you believe are necessary to ensure full inclusion and equality? Because when you talk about women's rights, we're talking about rights to equality, we're talking about full inclusion. So what are those things, measures that you think are necessary, those actions that you think we should accelerate in order to achieve the full, enjoyment of these rights that are embedded in the Act? Can we start with you, Freki?
Okay, thank you very much. So with respect to how we can move forward from now, with respect to women specifically, my thought would be that, we have the Disability Act, but the truth of the matter is that Disability Act kind of needs to reflect more in the gender space, a lot more, for it to really influence and impact on women. That's my thought. So how can this be done? We women who are leaders in the disability community, other women with disabilities, irrespective of the sector, you need to speak to the fact that gender and disability rights are important and should reflect in your organization policy, your office policies, and things like that. I'm saying that because that interaction of gender and disability is real. And we need to be able to win both in the disability community and in the gender space. Because if we win in disability community and lose in the gender space, we're going to be losing out. Yes, the voices of women with disabilities is currently being heard a lot more, in issues around women, but not nearly enough. So we need to be able to drag that journey along. So how can this happen? We reflect the rights of the women in issues around gender, and then we can begin to see particular and intentional wins for women. The other thing I would like to say is this: if your right is infringed on, especially aspects of discrimination that cut across the Act, it's time to speak up and exercise the law. Exercising the law is going to really help, because when it paves a way, and that's litigation, it paves a way. It might not even reach litigation, but it paves a way for people to begin to build that muscle even more. And then the last thing I would like to say is this: Because of our system of governance, we need to domesticate this law in many more states to have the impact that we need it to have. Else, the conversation will just be dancing in FCT, Lagos, and a few other states that have the law. Many states do not have a commission or a council to even, appropriate the rights that are, encased in their domesticated law. So there's quite a bit that needs to be done in seeing that advancement, and we need to take it away from just the centralized federal capital territory, that centralized notion, knowing that the federal law is there, but it has to be domesticated in states. What I wanted to add is the fact that I'm excited that women are also at the fore of domesticating of these laws in different states, like what we saw in Ebonyi State, what we've seen, with happening in Lagos State with Lasodo women. So that's what I would say is a good thing. I wanted to mention.
Thank you. I think you have said a lot and very, very important points, especially that point of intersectionality. That point of intersectionality is something very important. When we talk about gender, many would look at gender in a monolithic way, like, oh, it's just women. But no, we have other identities. And one of the identities that is often overlooked is disability, women with disability. So we must advocate for inclusion, especially in the gender space. But one other thing that you said that is very important is the issue of even not expressly including gender-related issues in the Act. If you look at the Act itself, there are no gender-related provisions. We have gender-related provisions in Article 27 of the CRPD. We have very robust gender-related provisions in the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa. So we have these rights in other climes, but we don't have them in Nigeria. And sorry, I just want to also add, on this issue of domestication, until you see the laws that are in some other states, it's very appalling. Some of them are not laws. Some of them are still on the charity model. I saw one today, and they've been shouting, we are the first to enact the disability law. That is a charity model. There is no right. The law is only on establishing a commission to cater for the welfare of persons with disabilities. That is it. So I think what we should even advocate for is for the application of that law for it to have a national application. We've started having that conversation with people like Femi Falana. We started having that conversation, how we can test the waters to insist that this law should have a national application, so that some states will not just hide under the umbrella that we have a law and do things that are not right-based. Any law that is not right-based is not a law.
One of the major issues we've had with this law has been, I don't know if there were any stakeholder meetings that were held. I don't know if there were, stakeholders were identified and they were included in the decision-making process. Or because, I don't know, honestly, it just seems like, let's get these people off our backs. And so let's just, they threw things together. Let's it was like they were trying to pacify us. Let's just do something so that they won't say we didn't do. Because if there were key stakeholder meetings and, the people you want this law to represent, if they have been involved in the decision-making process, people maybe from different disability groups, people from different civil service organizations had been called together to be a part of of the decision-making process. I believe that it wouldn't have been, the law would have been more comprehensive. Because you cannot write, it's just like saying the Constitution of Nigeria and you just put a general thing there and there are no specific, addressing specific issues. Imagine if the law of Nigeria had nothing that addressed, didn't have sections or subsections that addressed, women, children, and different demographics in society. If it was just a general law, then how would it be implemented? How would it be executed? So I think the main issue was that there was no inclusion of key stakeholders in the decision-making process. That's one of the key things. And I think going forward, that law is overdue for an amendment right now. So I think going forward, one of the major things they need to do, they should start afresh. That law is already overdue for amendment by the way it is right now. So I think we should be looking at seeing how the law can be amended, and so it made more comprehensive, so that key issues are addressed. The gender issue is also integrated and incorporated.
Thank you for that, Afion. Thank you. And I think that is really progressive thinking. Having had the law, we have seen the gaps. There is need for reforms. There is need for review. And all of these lacunas that we are seeing, we have to insist that the law be amended. Osaki, can we hear from you?
Okay, thank you very much. What I was saying earlier was that we should do more of awareness and sensitization campaigns to stakeholders and the grassroots, because most times those people in the public space or the so-called governors, you hardly meet them. We meet more of the grassroots, and if they don't have this knowledge, it's a sad one. So it looks like all what we are doing up there, nothing is happening. So let's try and see how we can do more stakeholder meetings with grassroots people, sensitization. One way in our closet, must not be a big show, but wherever we are, just do something like educating. Tell one or two persons what it looks like on discussion on the act.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So Bilkisu, it seems you are settled now. Can we hear you?
All right, thank you so much. Just like what every speaker have said, we need to do more work. Just like what you highlighted, in the Disability Rights Prohibition Act, there is no specific need of women with disability. There's no itemizing the specific need of women or person with disability. And the issues, a specific need for women in how inclusion of women with disability, everything that addresses the problem, issues around women with disability is not identified. I think it's time for us to accelerate action. We need to keep on speaking and try to engage policymakers to see if there's a possible way the Disability Rights Prohibition Act can be reviewed, and how issues around women with disability can be inculcated in this act, and see how we need to keep on advocating, we need to keep on speaking, we need to let people know that issues around women with disability need to be given the specific attentions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Tracy, can you finally add your voice to this conversation?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. For me, I think we have done a lot of awareness. Excuse me. We've done a lot of awareness. We've done a lot of advocacies, even though there is still need for it to trickle down to the smallest of communities. But looking at the way things are flowing, I think what we need to be doing right now is actually enforcing these rights. If you are being discriminated against on any grounds as a woman or as a person with disability, I think one or two litigations, whether they move to judgment or not, but preferably they move to judgment and then there is damages, that would speak louder than any number of awareness, sensitization, or advocacy pieces. Because one thing I've come to notice around among some of these stakeholders that pay advocacy pieces, some of them will open their doors to you, you will come, you will talk, they'll make commitments, you take pictures and go back. And once you leave their premises, that's it. When you come back again after 2 years, you discover that the status quo remains. So I think now we should move beyond advocacies and awareness, or do a twin track approach of advocating on the one hand and then going to court on the other hand. Some other nations where their disability laws are more effective, they had to take drastic measures. Like in America, they had to do I've forgotten what they call it, a crawl, where a lot of persons with disabilities went to the White House and they were all crawling through the steps at the White House, and that led to a drastic change in the scheme of things. So for us in Nigeria, as we say in Pidgin English, Nigerians really here, right? Now it's time for us to move beyond talking and all of those things and actually take one or two persons to court. And also, I feel like as far as the review goes, yes, it's very important that we do a review, but let's not do it in silos. What I mean by that is, for instance, an organization would start moving for a review of the law, and when funding stops, that organization will stop. Then another organization will come and start de novo, moving for the review. But if we form synergy amongst ourselves and speak in one voice, without the unnecessary need to take the glory alone and say we are working towards achieving a review of the Disability Act in Nigeria or amendment in certain key areas, I feel like we would achieve more results. And there's also need for women-led organizational persons with disabilities to also build synergy with other women-led CSOs that are doing things to empower women generally across board, so that they begin to factor women with disabilities from the onset, from when they are having their ideation stages, to see that, okay, in this intervention we're about to do, let's ensure that women with disabilities are actively involved, they are consulted from beginning to end, so that they will know what's best to do to include women with disabilities in the processes. So these are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies, for your contribution. The time for awareness has passed. It is time to accelerate action towards full implementation of the Act. And where there are violations, what do? We don't sleep on our rights. We take action. And that action may involve litigation. In fact, litigation is called action itself. So we must accelerate action towards taking these rights, because these rights are not given, they are taken. If you go through history, you see all people that fought for rights really fought for them in court, fought for them through intense advocacy and civil activism. So we have to do something about this to ensure that women with disabilities enjoy these rights to the full. So thank you for being part of the conversation this week. We look forward to seeing you again next week. So stay tuned with us. Like I said at the beginning, like our social platforms, subscribe, join us, and you will never regret being part of Bold Hearts TV. So see you next week, same time and on the same platforms. Bye, everyone.
This is Bold TV.